This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2409. 14 months, 18 countries, $10,000. How to quit your job and travel the world. Part 2 by Craig Stevens of retirebeforedad.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. Today's post is actually a continuation from yesterday. So if you're new here, it'd be best to listen to yesterday's episode first. But if you're all caught up, let's hear part 2 and continue optimizing your life. 14 months, 18 countries, $10,000. How to quit your job and travel the world. Part 2 by Craig Stevens of retirebeforedad.com. The second and third legs. I was tempted to abort my flight home from Asia to accept an invitation to travel in India for a few months. But my parents were eager to have me home, and it was not a good budgeting move to waste an expensive airline ticket. So I took the flight. Within a week of being home, I cashed in my small stash of airline miles on a round-trip flight to Ecuador. I used a U.S. Airways credit card to earn frequent flyer miles at the time. Flights were easy to book at the time because no one was flying. I spent another 5 months on the road in South America backpacking my way through Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. This time I traveled mostly solo. I saw the Colca Canyon, the Uyuni Salt Flats, swam with Pink River dolphins in Bolivia, marveled at Iguazu Falls, and socialized with new friends just about every day. Life was spectacular. Argentina recently went through a major currency crisis, multiplying the buying power of the US dollar by 4. I ate and drank there better than any previous destination and did it on a budget of less than $10 a day. In Chile, I took a 3-week hiatus from traveling and worked in a hostel in Santiago in exchange for a bed, hot showers, and great company. I had 2 expenses, empanadas and beer. That's when I committed to another trip extension. My round-trip flight to Ecuador had a stopover in Panama. I opted to take the flight to Panama City and surrender my connecting flight home. Some good friends of mine would be in Las Vegas for a bachelor party about 100 days after the flight to Panama. So I decided to travel to Vegas by land through Central America to Los Angeles, and then rent a car and make my way up the coast, then over to Sin City. Money running out. I was tired of sleeping in a new place every few days, but my backpack had significantly lightened and I had grown accustomed to the nomad lifestyle. There are a few occasions in my life I would have things in order to the point I could put everything on hold and slowly move my way through a continent. I could stop in any town or city and stay until I got bored or needed a change of scenery. My professional life was on hold, but my life was more exciting than ever. My supportive parents came through once again when my dad completed my taxes for me and emailed the news that I'd be getting a $2,500 refund. The refund was just what I needed to make it to Vegas. After 3+ months in Central America, I took a 48-hour bus ride from Mexico City to Tijuana and crossed over into the US. The ride wasn't as bad as it sounds, aside from a 6-hour mechanical delay. Vegas was fun, but spending $100 for a bed when I was spending $5 for the past year was difficult to swallow. My priorities were very different, and my view on the value of a dollar changed a lot too. How I budgeted. Budgeting was simple. Depending on the country, I'd budget $15 to $25 per day. If I was in an expensive country like Costa Rica, I'd hurry through to the cheaper country, Nicaragua. If I had an opportunity to do something really fun that was over my budget, I'd still do it, but cut back on other days that week. I needed to splurge a little extra here and there for short flights and ferry rides, but they never skewed my budget by too much. Hotel rooms and beds ranged from $1.25 to $10 US, depending on the country. Food and beer were cheap. Transportation could get expensive, but I'd often take overnight trips to save on accommodation. To track spending, I had a little calculator and converted the local currency into dollars and wrote the spending amounts in the back of my journal. All told, I spent $1,300 on my initial flight, then started my trip with $6,000. My tax return provided an additional $2,500 in cash just when I needed it, for a total of $9,800. That certainly lasted until I arrived at the US border. Renting a car and traveling from LA to Las Vegas and back, then up to San Francisco required a small amount of debt, but I knew I'd be working again soon. If I love traveling so much, why am I not doing it full-time today? The simple answer is that my desire to raise a family and a stable home outweighs my desire to travel the world extensively. Once the kids get older, we want to take some overseas trips, and I think it will be beneficial to their upbringing. But long extended trips are not in the plans right now. Maybe we'll find an opportunity to live abroad someday. My new company could provide that kind of opportunity in the future. When I retire and we have plenty of time and passive income, Mrs. Retire Before Dad and I plan to take long and extended trips. Our budget will be much better than $20 a day. How you can travel the world too. If you're considering a backpacking trip, I can recommend a few things based on my experiences. Number 1, dedicate yourself 6 to 12 months ahead of time by booking your airfare. That will motivate you to get your together. Pay off all debts, save extra money. Don't leave any loose ends at home. Figure out where you'll store things or sell it all. Don't forget to buy travel insurance, it's cheap. Number 2, if you're a young American, don't go to Europe. Traveling in most parts of Western Europe is too expensive. You'll meet more Europeans in Bangkok than while staying in a dumpy Paris hotel. Number 3, travel to poorer parts of the world to stretch your money. Stay longer in cheaper countries and avoid rich countries. And number 4, lastly, you'll need more time and less money than you expect. Plan accordingly. Travel the world slowly and change your course when it feels right. Build in flexibility. You just listened to part 2 of the post titled 14 Months, 18 Countries, $10,000. How to Quit Your Job and Travel the World by Craig Stevens of RetireBeforeDad.com. Something that occurred to me about this article is how important it is to have these kinds of experiences when you're young. Craig himself admits that in traditional retirement, if he travels extensively again, he'll have a much higher budget. Similarly, my friend Jess shared a hiking vacation she had with her parents that demonstrated this same point. She mentioned that her parents in their 60s are incredibly fit older adults. However, there are simply certain types of activities that lend themselves better to different decades of your life. For example, someone may absolutely love backpacking through Europe and staying in hostels in their 20s, but in their 40s, they may crave more luxury. Jess could tell her parents were disappointed on this trip. This was one of their bucket list trips, and they weren't able to experience it as much as they'd like. If there's something you want to do in life, it's worth considering when is the right time in life to do it. Do you have the mobility now to do something you won't be able to do in your 60s? What experiences do you want to have in your life, and when would you be able to most fully experience them? If you've been putting them off until you have more money, how could you incorporate them into your life now or soon? That's another episode of Optimal Finance Daily in the books. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow, so have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the Sunday show where your optimal life awaits.